we may take pride in our contribution to the civilization of the world. In fact, in he was talking about Europe. I'm a student of China. And I've studied the economy of China, teach the economy of China at Harvard for many years. Now I teach every summer. And I was surprised to see that in 1936, when Harvard celebrated its centennial, the tricentennial, 300 years, they invited scholars from all over the world to make a presentation. And they invited the president of Beijing University, a well-known poet called Dr. Hu Shi, to deliver a lecture. They thought he would be speaking about Chinese culture. But he came, and the title of his book, which is published in the tricentennial volumes and available in Harvard's Widener Library, his title of his speech to the tricentennial conference was "The Indianization of China." And I was so curious to find out. And it describes how deeply the concepts of Mahayana Buddhism, which he said is really Hinduism, has gone deep into the minds of the Chinese. And of course he's not happy about it because he himself was a Christian. And he said that the Chinese have no hope unless they give up this culture and adopt Western culture. But in the process, he describes the depth to which Indian or Hindu religion penetrated into China. And you can see that even today, when you go to China, if you go to the remote parts of China, you see statues of Shiva, you see shlokas of Sanskrit, and so on. So it's not only Europe that we went to. It's all over the East. Even today in Laos and Cambodia and so on, they celebrate many of the Indian festivals. Indonesia, in Bali. In fact, in Ramasetu case, when I was taking it up, I used to get inquiries from Thailand and from Cambodia and Vietnam, saying, will this be safe or not? You want us to do anything? I mean, the feeling that the extent to which we spread is really something we can all be proud of. This great civilization was bled and looted for over 1,000 years, and its people brainwashed and became impoverished and lost their self-esteem, all in a matter of 300 years. Question is, why? What is it that was lacking in us, despite all this brilliance, all these great achievements? How did this happen? And if this has happened, can it happen again? Is there some structural flaw in our way of thinking which has brought this about and can bring it about again? Now the challenges are much more sophisticated. Much more sophisticated. It's no more the old brutal Muhammad Ghori and Ghazni. Now it is the battle is in the mind, globalization of tastes, and the abandonment of the fundamental principle of Sanatana Dharma, that we must try to blend materialism with spiritualism. With spiritual pursuits and material advancement, they must go together. Now that the spiritual part has been dropping in importance with the rise of globalization of tastes. So now we don't see the threat. So we have to address ourselves to this question, how is this going to be changed? After all, let us remember, there were other great civilizations, Greece, Egypt, Babylon, Iran. Iran was a Zoroastrian civilization. They all have disappeared. They've broken their links with the past for a variety of reasons. So it's no use tomorrow for a future generation of Indians to go and learn about Hinduism by visiting a museum and seeing it there, as the Greeks do, or the Babylonians do, or in Iraq, or the Egyptians do. So we have to answer this question. We can't get the answers in the present history books. I agree with Rajiv Malhotra, and I think it's because he is not being educated in the usual social science discipline that he is able to bring so much originality to the analysis of history. Because if he had gone through the usual social science training, he would have been brainwashed himself, and he wouldn't have demonstrated this originality. We have to burn our history books. I have no doubt about that, because this defalsification of our history cannot become in bits and pieces. It has to be a lock, stock and barrel change. But the question is how to do it. How to do it which is acceptable academically. I mean, you can't do it the way Hitler did it, or you can't do it the way Idi Amin did it for a brief period. We have to do it in a way which is in a civilized way, in a matter of discourse. We have this ancient system called Shastrat, where we engaged in debate. In fact, the word Dravidian came out of one of the Shastra, namely when Adi Shankara went to Varanasi and challenged Mandana Mishra to a debate and said, if you lose the debate, you convert. He was, of course, the Uttara Mimamsa school and Buddhist scholar. And he said, if you lose, you have to convert to Hinduism. If I lose, I will become your Shishya. These were the two greatest exponents at that time. And the question is, Mandana Mishra agreed, but then there was a question, who's going to debate, who's going to judge this debate? So Mandana Mishra's wife was chosen as the judge. And after the debate, Mandana Mishra lost, which means never trust your wife to be the judge. And he became the first Shringeri Shankaracharya. So that's, and there the principles are laid down, how the academic discourse is to be conducted. So we have to do it in that way, which means you must footnote your sources. You must present the point of view of the other side and then demolish it. That's the academic discipline that we have to observe. Unfortunately, there are many, many wonderful books written by many scholars about the correct chronology of India, the correct Indian history, but it's not academically acceptable because it's not footnoted. It doesn't describe all the other researches that have been done to date, why they are wrong, why they should be rejected. And that is precisely what we need to do. If you are going to have a Hindu university in this country, the university should educate people not to be dogmatic, not to be doctrinaire, but to be academic, to place a point of view and then to demolish it by arguments and sources. I would say The Invading of the Sacred was perhaps the first book I saw where you actually did it in a professionally academic way. And I compliment Rajiv Malhotra because he was the moving spirit. Shri Swami Dayanand Saraswati, the founder, convener of the Hindu Dharma Acharya Sabha, the first Hindu monks organization that has ever come to existence in the known history of India, where all the Shankaracharyas are members, all the Mahamandaleshwaras are members, all the Pithadipatis are members, all the Akhadas are members. This is the first time such an organization come into being. And of course I've been fortunate to be invited to all its, they once in 2 years they have a conference. I've been invited to it, maybe because my name is Swami, so I'm entitled. But in that, these books have been brought in big cartons and distributed by Swami Dayanand Saraswati. It's been so taken up. We have all taken up. That's the kind of quality of work that needs to be done. We need to build a library of scholarly books first, as a first step to understand what happened in our history. To say that the Hindus have always been beaten. I've seen these youngsters in all length and breadth of India telling me, ultimately whatever it is, Vedas, this thing, that thing, but we have always been beaten. The Muslims came, they came in hordes, and the English came. This is what is our history. But that's not correct interpretation. The Muslims went to Iran, and within 15 years they made it 100% Muslim. They went to Iraq, 100% Muslim. Went to Egypt, 100% Muslim. Similarly, the Christians went to Europe, converted 100%. But here for 1,000 years, turn by turn, first the Muslims, then the Christians, they plundered, looted, did no end of oppression, and in the end we are still 83% of Hindus are still 83%. How did this happen? I didn't even realize this till some Saudi Arabian scholars came to India, and they met me, and then they said that they are studying why is it that Islam could not convert majority of Indians to Islam. What is wrong with Islam that it couldn't do it in India? So this is a reinterpretation that we did fight, and there were fighters. The Vijayanagara Empire. If you read the textbook which are being prescribed in our colleges in India, you will find one paragraph that in South India there was an empire called Vijayanagara. But Vijayanagara spread right up to Assam, came to the borders of Delhi. It lasted 300 years. From Akbar to Aurangzeb is only 150 years. But here you look at the history books, there will be one chapter, one for Babur, one for Humayun, one for Akbar, etc., all the way till Aurangzeb. But for Vijayanagara, one paragraph. The Cholas ruled Tamil Nadu for 1,000 years. If Tamil is so developed, it's because of the Cholas. Fortunately, the history has been distorted. Even the word Dravida was originally coined by Adi Shankara in his debate with Mandana Mishra, where he said Dravida, when they asked, the first question the wife asked is, who are you? So he said, I am a Dravida Shishu, which meant essentially, I think, a sandhi of two words, Tra and Vid, probably means the three coastlines joining together, South India. We made into a race. And now they say Dravid means somebody who is not a Brahmin. And they took the history to such an extent that the Dravida movement decided to adopt Ravan as their hero. And they changed their names from Ramchandra. Many of the Tamils have names like Ramchandra, Raman and all that. They changed it to Ravana. Now they don't do it. Because for the last 10 years of campaigning, I've been saying, these idiots don't know that Ravan was a Brahmin. And he was a great sage. He went to Mansarovar. He got a big boon from Lord Shiva. He could call Lord Shiva anytime he wanted. But then when they found his ego had got so far, they decided that Hanuman came as an avatar of Shiva, Ram as the avatar of Vishnu, and Rama was a Kshatriya. He killed a Brahmin. Of course, he performed Brahmahatya Puja in after that. So you can kill a Brahmin anytime, provided you do Brahmahatya Puja. Fortunately, the history has been distorted. Even the word Dravida was originally coined by Adi Shankara in his debate with Mandana Mishra, where he said Dravida, when they asked, the first question the wife asked is, who are you? So he said, I am a Dravida Shishu, which meant essentially, I think, a sandhi of two words, Tra and Vid, probably means the three coastlines joining together, South India. We made into a race. And now they say Dravid means somebody who is not a Brahmin. And they took the history to such an extent that the Dravida movement decided to adopt Ravan as their hero. And they changed their names from Ramchandra. Many of the Tamils have names like Ramchandra, Raman and all that. They changed it to Ravana. Now they don't do it. Because for the last 10 years of campaigning, I have been saying, these idiots don't know that Ravan was a Brahmin. And he was a great sage. He went to Mansarovar. He got a big boon from Lord Shiva. He could call Lord Shiva any time he wanted. But then when they found his ego had got so far, they decided that Hanuman came as the avatar of Shiva, Ram as the avatar of Vishnu, and Rama was a Kshatriya. He killed a Brahmin. Of course, he performed Brahmahatya Puja in after that. So you can kill a Brahmin anytime, provided you do Brahmahatya Puja. Varna and caste are different. The creation of Varna came out of a debate between Bhrigu and Bhardwaj, two Maharishis. And Bhrigu says that there are four sources of power in society. One is knowledge, vidya, second is weapons, third is money, fourth is land. And he said society cannot be stable unless these four sources of power are not concentrated, and therefore should be separated. So if you are going to pursue vidya, then you cannot have weapons, you cannot have wealth, you cannot have land. But you will have social status. If you have weapons, then you cannot make policy. If you have money, you cannot decide anything. And if you have got land, you have to produce for the people. So this is how we structured our society. I would like to conclude by saying, when you prepare these documents, you have to see it from 2 points of view. One is for our own people. First you cook for our own people. Then you go into a debate. You have to decide when you are going to argue, you must know the nature of your enemy or your opponent. As Rajiv very correctly said, there's no point in arguing on conversion with the Christian and the Muslim, because they have been directed by the Lord to convert. You cannot get them off that. You cannot even argue with them to say, let us agree that all religions are equal and they will all lead to God. Because the Pope had come to India in 1999 and he declared, he said, no, it's not, we cannot agree to that. Your path does not lead to the God, it leads to the devil. Only Christianity leads to God. So there's no point in discussing with we can hear you. There's no point in discussing with somebody who cannot possibly agree with you. So you have to have an intelligent debate. There's no point in going to a debate of communists and then trying to convince them on history, because they will never change. What you need to do is get the younger generation and create a new band of people who are able to argue in universities when called upon. That is what we have to work for. In Mahabharata, after Bhishmacharya has been laid on rest on bed of arrows and the war over, Krishna tells Arjuna, go and get some advice on him on how to run a government. Now you're going to be part of the government. You're going to rule the Indraprastha, Hastinapur. So he goes to Bhishmacharya and then starts posing some questions. This, in my opinion, should be reproduced somewhere and circulated to all of us.
particularly politicians. Arjuna asked this question of Bhishmacharya: when should I make an alliance with my enemy, and how? So Bhishmacharya says, I will not give you a direct answer, I will give you a story. He says that there was in a forest, there was a rat, and it was quite happy, but one day a cat made a home on the top of a branch just where the rat had his hole. And the cat then smelt that there is this rat. So he began to lie in wait for it. So the rat could not come out and was very unhappy. But one day in the morning, the rat heard some shrieks from a cat. So he came out and looked, and he saw that some hunter had placed a net on the floor, and the cat kept on it, so it got suspended in the net. There's a way of the hunter catching. So it was suspended from the branch, and it was shrieking away. So the rat was very pleased. It came and started dancing. And in the meantime, a snake came. And the rat had gone so far from its hole that it couldn't return. And the snake was about to catch the rat. At that time, the rat said to the cat, I'll make a deal with you. I will jump into your net and cut the ropes, the threads, so that you can run away before the hunter comes. And you protect me from the snake by shrieking at the snake. So the cat agreed. So the rat jumped, and then the cat shrieked, and the snake got frightened and went away. Then the cat said, now get me free. So the rat started biting slowly. So the cat got impatient. What are you doing so slowly? The hunter will come. He said, no, I'm trying my best. I'm doing my best. After some time, the hunter came. Then the rat cut through the thread very quickly, and a hole was created. But the cat was more interested in protecting itself from the hunter, so it jumped and went right up the tree and ran away, and the rat went back to its hole. So later on, when the rat came out, the cat said, why did you take so much time? He says, because I know your nature. I was in your belly, near your belly. If I had let you off, if I had cut a hole much earlier, you would have eaten me up first and then gone. So he said, if you are going to have an alliance with an enemy, make sure that you keep route open. What can be an Indian's identity? Their identity must be something that must connect us with our past. But our past is mostly Hindu. So Hindus can connect with the past. But how will Muslims and Christians connect with this past? So I would suggest, and I find that this is a feasible suggestion, that Muslims and Christians must acknowledge that their ancestors are Hindus, which is the reality. If a Muslim or a Christian feels that, if a Muslim feels that his ancestors are Gauri and Ghazni, then he doesn't belong in India. And if a Muslim and a Christian both agree that their ancestors are Hindus, that means a change of religion need not mean a change of culture. And that would be the real Hindustani culture. We can develop a clear identity and connect with the past if we do that. Privately, Muslims agree. Some Muslim writers have started writing like this. M.K. Akbar, well-known editor, has written to say that his grandfather was a Kshatriya from Bihar. So when that happens, then of course they all become part of one family. That identity needs to be developed. You've got to be careful that there are lots of people who are now worried about a developing Hindu identity. at developing Hindu identity is sought to be subverted today. Amartya Sen has written a book in which he says there are multiple identities. There cannot be one identity. Well, of course, there will be multiple identities, but at a lower level. But there's an overriding identity, and that's the Hindu identity. And it is that search of Hindu identity for which we need the correct interpretation of our history, for which today Rajiv Malhotra has made a tremendous contribution. I congratulate him and thank you very much.